It's a pleasure to welcome you to RVing in New England. It's our Saturday Night Live special. We had hoped to be camping right now, either in Maine, Vermont, or New Hampshire, or somewhere in New England, but obviously, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we're still here, and we hope that you are too. And I want to bring on our co-host for this show, Bob Zagami. And while Bob makes his way out of the green room and into the studio, we'd like to tell you that we have a special show tonight as we continue to tell you about the plight of full-time RVers. And we started this about 5 or 6 weeks ago, hoping it would just be a one-night only deal. But we have had the opportunity, through the wonders of modern technology, the capability to deal with RVers all over the United States.
Yes,
yeah, go ahead.
Guess who's first?
Not, it can't be Kessler.
Well, he put in two. He said, hello, John, and then he said, hello, Bob. So hello, Rick. So Rick, are you pleased with the virtual draft so far for all your Michigan boys? Is that Michigan State?
No, he's University of Michigan.
Huh? No, I see his logo, the Spartans. The Spartans are...
I know it. I'm just busting him on that.
Frank,
but you know what I read, Bob?
No, Frank's not. I don't see Frank on there. You see Frank?
No, I only see Rick, and for some reason, I don't have the right-hand column, so I can't read the names at all.
Okay, Michigan State. So okay. I haven't.
So your ADD is worse than mine tonight. I was just telling our audience who our great guests are, and you time out. I guess you did what I do.
Yeah, but I just didn't do this.
Yeah.
You know, like a bird flying.
So
Walter,
basically, we've got Mark and Julie Bennett from RV Love, who joined us in January, who are back now to tell us where they are right now and tell us some harrowing stories about triple-digit temperatures and now the snow that they dealt with yesterday. So they've dealt with over 100 degrees worth of temperature changes. And speaking of temperature changes, we're also going to go to Alaska tonight and deal with Ben and Rebecca from Outliers Overland. They have a phenomenal series of videos on their YouTube channel. And Bob, I know you want to talk about who's here right now as I try to figure out my monitor as to why I don't see the right-hand column.
Rick, and if Frank is there, I don't know, but Walter Swenson joined us. Walter was camping in his backyard today with the new baby bear trailer, not with the fifth wheel, but his new rental trailer. He must have been breaking it in and making sure everything was okay for his first outdoorsy rental. We'll see how he does with that. So with that, why don't we bring up Rick, Julie, and Mark.
Let's go to Colorado and talk to Mark and Julie.
Riney just joined us. Hi, Riney. And here we have Julie and Mark Bennett making their second appearance on RVing in New England. A lot of people don't make it past their first one, guys. So
hey, well, I guess we didn't do too many things wrong the first time. So
good to see you, John.
Bob, you got to give them credit because they are business people, and Julie is proudly displaying her logo.
Oh, thank you.
She got it in the only way she could there, and if you wore a regular T-shirt, it wouldn't show up on camera, but she figured out a way to cheat the system and do that. So, guys, last time we talked to you, you were enjoying time. Actually, you were in a rental RV in sunny Florida just before you met Bob. Yep. But you have been all over the place since then. But since tonight's show is devoted exclusively to the impact on full-time RVing with this coronavirus, tell us what you've done in the past, say, 7 or 8 weeks to deal with the ever-changing environment that we're in right now.
No. Well,
they both look at each other to start.
Who goes first? Well, we came back from our rental RV experience back to our coach, which was in storage in Phoenix, Arizona in mid-February and headed out to boondock in the desert here. And some of you may recognize this is Quartzsite, Arizona.
Yeah, we had a really great spot out there. We were actually there for better part of 5 weeks, which, breaking the rules a little bit with that because you're supposed to only stay for a couple of weeks at a time in Bureau of Land Management property. But we were there when the shelter-in-place order came through, and we thought, well, this is one of the lowest impact we can possibly have on anyone in society is to shelter in place right where we are. We have a really great off-grid capable RV with solar and lithium batteries. So we just decided, big water tanks. We just decided just hang out there for a couple of weeks and see how things develop. But as things did develop, we had to reassess.
Yeah,
did those 2 weeks turn into more?
Yeah. Did you see any human beings out there? It looks like you and the rest of the world.
When you looked around or looked out of a window, it looks very desolate there. But, the angle of the camera is, very strategic too. You want to look like that. We could probably see 30 rigs from our
If I
RV.
stood on the roof of the RV, I could probably count 30 within view, but no one within a couple hundred meters of us, a couple hundred yards. So
it wouldn't surprise me if there were still easily 1,000 other RVs out there in the desert, if not many more, because that's a big area. Yeah.
Boy,
And you had solar power as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You had solar power as well.
Rick Kessler says, hello, RV love.
Oh,
hey Rick, how are you?
We love Rick Kessler.
And Kevin Hiroki's on tonight. Hey, Kevin. Glad you could join us. So what was it like being in the desert? So you weren't all by yourself, but what was it like being out there for 5 weeks?
Well, it was actually really great because, to be honest, if we weren't watching the news, we wouldn't have known that anything was going on. Because, we're used to working in our RV. We're used to being by ourselves a bit. And so we were just working during the day. We could go for walks because there was lots of space around. There were no restrictions out there, partially also because that's one of the lowest exposure parts of the country at the time. I think we only had three infected cases in the whole county at that time. So we were, we just enjoyed our time out there, tried to conserve water and
very safe.
But felt safe and self-isolated. Yeah.
During the time that you had to depart to break camp and go to back to the truck stop and clean and fill up again, did you run into any other RVers there during that time? And if so, were they running from the law?
Well, we saw
from the law, you know what I mean?
Right around the time that we decided we needed to dump our tanks, get our filled up with fuel, full of propane, get ourselves set to go for a longer period of time. There were a few RVs out there. The trucks were lined up because there was so much volume coming through there. But that was around the time that a lot of the Canadians were going north. So there was some RV volume at the time. Yeah. But I was really impressed with the facility that they had staff out there cleaning the pumps and cleaning the trash cans with disinfectants and was being mindful about that. But yeah, we stocked up with that and then stopped in a campground actually for a day, did laundry and settled in for an additional 3 weeks, that second half of that 5 week period.
So we did actually change location, but we were still in the area.
Still in the general area.
But you were still on BLM land?
Yeah. Still on BLM land.
Did you see anybody from the government? Did they come out and hand you instructions or tell you what you could do or couldn't do?
No, when we first arrived, we checked in with the camp host, but it was the end of the season. And so, we got our little pass to put in the window from the camp host. And then by the time we went and did the dump and fill, went out for our second stint, he'd already packed up and left, gone back home to Montana, and there was no one around. But probably about 2 weeks before we left, maybe a week into our 3 weeks second stay, they did put signs up saying that they were closing the land and it was full. I mean, clearly it's not full, but they were trying to stop other people from coming in. Yeah. And I think understandably, and the LTVA area, the long-term visitor access area, was closing, I think, April 15th.
Yeah, and so they were starting to shut it down. They were wanting people to not be out there, which was part of our motivation for leaving. Then our second we had multiple reasons for wanting to be motivated to leave. Is when we got there, we thought it was going to be fairly short term, but when we saw that it was going to go longer term, we realized this is not going to be an optimal place to be as the temperatures rise, because right now they're seeing triple-digit temperatures every day of the week. So That's not.
You do not want to be there in 100-degree
Be
weather.
there, especially without hookups. I mean, when you're out there dry camping, and we were concerned that some of the local campgrounds might start restricting people to come in and might not allow us to dump and fill. And so there are additional concerns about restrictions there were a motivator for us to move on.
Did you ever have any?
Rick has a question.
Ever have any fear that you were going to be like locked out and stuck in the middle of nowhere? Well, certainly you were in the middle of nowhere when you were in Quartzsite, but did you ever say, we've got to run and, be fearful, or did you always kind of had your destinations planned, right?
Well, not really, because our plans, we had to change them. We'd originally planned to go to a campground in California in the Palm Springs area, meet friends. And then as it was because as you all know, it was escalating so quickly on a day-by-day basis, even by the hour. So we canceled all those plans to go to the California campground. We were going to go through Utah, take our time, go to the national parks on our way to Colorado. Well, that wasn't going to be happening, so we canceled that. And so we just had to keep reassessing our plans on a daily basis, really. And what we were getting concerned about, John, was what if they do close state borders? What if campgrounds stop accepting transient travelers? Because I'm Australian, if you don't already know, those listening, my accent. I was talking to friends and family in Australia, and my best friend in Australia was in a motorhome with her husband, and they got to West Australia and they closed the borders. They literally wouldn't let anyone else in unless you had a really good reason to. But not only that, they were closing within the counties, closing borders between counties, and asking for identification to buy groceries. So then that could happen.
Groceries.
Huh.
Yeah.
Two quick questions. Where were you heading in Palm Springs? What was the name of the facility?
Catalina Spa, an RV resort.
Okay, I don't know if we saw that, Bob. Does that ring a bell when we were there?
No, didn't ring a bell.
We were just there.
We had friends staying there. It's near Palm Springs and Desert Hot Springs, and so that's why we wanted to go there. We were there in the fall as well.
And where is your vehicle registered? Where are the plates?
We are registered in Texas, and that was actually one of the additional concerns for us is that we wanted to come to Colorado where we have a lot of family, and if there was restrictions on travel, we knew we could probably still go to Texas, but we wanted to come to Colorado. And so before there was any risk of closing down travel restrictions, we wanted to get settled in Colorado where we wanted to be and be ready to stay for an extended period of time when we're planning on staying.
Okay, Rick, we got two questions you should address. Rick wants to know, Mark, how'd that energy management system work out there in BLM land?
Oh, our off-grid system was amazing. We never were without power. We did have a generator for backup power, but we have over 1,000 watts of solar. We have 600 amp hours of lithium. We were cooking with the convection oven, microwave, electric kettle, electric skillet, residential fridge. We were running everything, and it was totally fine.
It was fireplace behind you.
Yeah, the fireplace.
Just for ambiance.
We didn't need it for heat.
We've been using. Got to Colorado though.
All right, you got one more. Steve Giano. Water and emptying tanks would be 2 questions for staying in the desert for 5 weeks.
Well, you solved that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Explain your system there. Yeah.
We went for
big tanks.
We have big tanks. We have 100-gallon fresh and 130-gallon waste tanks. So we can comfortably go 2 weeks, and 3 weeks is more of a stretch, but we could go 4 if we really wanted to push it.
We were trying to do 4. I said, let's see how far we can push it. Let's just see if we can go 28 days. And we were conserving everything, not just water. We were conserving toilet paper too. Everyone had to do that. Too much information.
So you're ahead of yourselves. So you did leave and you went to that Love's truck stop and did all your emptying and filling there.
We have a late breaking bulletin from Mr. Swenson. It says Minnesota announced no vacation camping for the whole year. Seasonals are okay and those working for COVID, but no other vacation camping in Minnesota. Hope that doesn't start a trend.
Hopefully that doesn't start a trend. That'd be really big.
We don't hear anything about Minnesota.
But that's part of our concern is we wanted to get to places because campgrounds were getting restrictions, and there were campgrounds that were getting forced to close down.
Yeah. Oh, it's the the economic impact on campgrounds is unbelievable.
On that 900-mile trip that you had from Arizona to Colorado, where you are now, did you notice anything? I don't know how many states you had to go through, but did you notice that any people being pulled over in rest areas, like our friends from a few weeks ago were pulled over in a rest area and asked where they were heading?
We didn't see that, actually. One thing very notable, the traffic was very low. It made for very easy travel for us because traffic was super low. We did stop at a couple rest stops ourselves, and
we saw a lot of police out in Arizona.
Oh my gosh,
so we left Arizona,
police,
drove through New Mexico, and up to Colorado. And you saw, I think, 40 police vehicles out, and that in a 24-hour period. Probably saw 40.
What were they doing?
I think they were honest. I think they were watching for speeders because the roads were so wide open that it was a great opportunity for people to put the
revenue.
Yes, not me, of course.
Revenue enhancement. Yeah.
Revenue enhancement.
Frank posted a Facebook page. Frank, tell me what that is. Is that a video that you did, or how does it relate to what we're talking about? But Frank's got a Facebook link down there to do that. Okay, so then you went to Colorado.
Yeah, and what was funny is we needed to make fast tracks for a couple of reasons. It wasn't a tourist trip. We were wanting to get to our destination, settle in, not risk having multiple stays or risking additional potential for mechanical breakdowns or anything. But also we were racing weather conditions because we wanted to get here before the big snow came because we didn't want to travel in the snow. And we got here.
Just a little bit of snow. Just a little bit of snow and going to bother your trip.
It's so funny. We left this beautiful 80-degree weather, t-shirt and shorts in the desert, and then we showed up here and we saw lows in the teens. It was quite a shock to the system, but it was just a few days, and then now it's pretty nice, and we're super happy to be here now with the weather in the 70s now, whereas in Arizona it's over 100. Yeah.
You know, with the weather in the teens, and I know you said you were down to single digits when we talked earlier today. Did you winterize, or are you protected? Are the tanks heated, or how'd you protect yourself with the water freezing?
Well, fortunately, we have a country coach motorhome, and the wet bays are heated. As long as I'm running the furnace, those bays do stay heated, and I don't hook up to water. I just keep water on board, and so we can handle extended periods with super low temperatures as long as we're in it running the furnace. So
but the battery bay can't get too cold, and so
right, because we have lithium batteries, we need to add additional heat source into the battery bay to protect those. So I just use the extension cord with the shop light and leave that inside the bay locked up, and that keeps them warm.
So you had to considerably change your geographic location from where you expected to be at this time. From California to Colorado, that's a good distance. Has your economic situation changed at all? Are you able to still do your normal work duties? Yeah. And can that continue for the foreseeable future?
Well, we're fortunate that our business is primarily online. And so we're able to still, website, YouTube channel, creating content. So primarily an online business. Obviously, any of the events and rallies we had planned and book signings and meetups, they've all been cancelled for the foreseeable future. But we've definitely seen a noticeable drop in our income, as I think a lot of people have. But we're just grateful that it's, we have something, because there are a lot of people out there who have lost jobs completely and don't even know what it's like to have an online business. So we're fortunate.
You're reading my mind, DePietro.
That it's So
see, I know it. See, for those who are joining who don't know who we're talking to, because you may not have seen our January show, but we're talking to Julie and Mark Bennett, who are the authors of Living the RV Life, along with all their other activities. But that's a phenomenal book that you can pick up on Amazon or any store. We'll have to get you up to New England to do a book signing. I'd love to say this. I'd love to say this summer, but I don't know if we're going to get up there this summer. So
yeah.
But we did a virtual book signing last week, so yeah.
Yeah, and Gail Hogan and Steve just joined us. They are the new state directors in Rhode Island, but we can't call them Good Sam state directors because they've been jettisoned. So they're in the process of forming another association or another group to take care of all their projects down there.
So do you ever have any thoughts? Have you ever like looked in each other's eyes and said, let's just can this and go get some sticks and bricks and just go live like quote unquote abnormal people?
You know, I think what's been interesting about this, I think, and not for us. No, we love our RV. We love our RV lifestyle. We love traveling, and but it has had us look at a few things differently. And we also have an online school, and some of those people have told us that it's helping. They're really reassessing, and I think a lot of full-time RVers are looking at ways to get into the lifestyle, but still have something more of a home base to return to, whether that's a smaller home with, then they sell their big home, have a small home, or maybe have a lot or a site in an RV campground that they own, or at least have a long-term lease on. So they have some type of grounding, some place they know they can return to. So because I do think this has shaken a lot of people, and people want to have that little bit more of a security.
You want to know you've got a place to go home to.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, none of us know what the new normal is going to be, if we could even call it normal. And I know John did an interview with some Outlanders that we're going to show later on in the show, and they were in Mexico, and they kept their home in Alaska, so they wanted to get home to Alaska. And
wow, that is a long trip.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting video.
Miles.
Yeah.
They were in Baja California in Mexico.
My gosh.
Wow.
400 miles south of the U.S. border.
Yeah.
And they didn't go straight up California. And I said to them, and, you know, we've got the interview with them coming up later in the show. Hopefully we have the interview. Now, whether it plays or not.
We have a video. Whether that we have a video, we're going to play it. Whether it works or not, it's still up in the air.
You know, you had a 900-mile run to get from Quartzsite to there. Theirs was 4,200 miles, 3 border crossings. They had to go Mexico to the U.S., U.S. to Canada, and then Canada back into the U.S.
Yeah.
And it was a 15-day trip nonstop.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Plus, they were traveling with another family member who is a cancer survivor and did not want to risk getting stuck in the U.S. where there was no home. I mean, they're in the U.S., they're in Alaska, but they're not in
home.
Yeah,
that's what we found. A lot of as soon as it started happening, Canadians were nervous. They wanted to get home. And so people were just, even Americans, not just Canadians, everyone just if you had a home, people were wanting to get home. We didn't have a home. A lot of us full-timers that don't have a home, but we definitely had the conversation about, you know, should we take an annual site somewhere in Texas, which is our domicile state, and have that as a backup. But we haven't, you know, we're having conversations, but we're doing okay right now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So many city, county, and state parks closing, then it puts a lot of the pressure on the private parks. And a lot of private parks, some of them are more COVID friendly than others. Some just decided to completely shut down. Some are fighting to stay open and catering to full-time RVers or people who are traveling nurses and such. And because they can be an essential service if they're providing food or propane or something like that.
Sure. Hey, I feel neglected. Kessler knows something that I don't know. He says, Mark and Julie, how's the vintage Airstream coming along? And please share the story of how you got it.
Who asked this question?
Mr. Kessler. So how does Kessler know?
Told the world about that one. Let the hell out of the bag. That's a whole other story, isn't it?
So wait a minute. How does Kessler know something that Sagami and DePietro don't know?
Well, we've known Rick longer, so.
Thank you for joining us today. We're out of time.
Long story short, oh gosh, yes, we did buy vintage Airstream. Too long of a story to go into, and it's a heck of a story. We sold it.
No, you just want to come back a third time. You just
it's a good story.
If you want to know, you'll have to invite us back again sometime.
That's right.
Hey, have you had any medical issues that your refugee status has posed a challenge?
No, that's part of why we wanted to get settled in. That was one of the other drawbacks of the Quartzsite area is that there isn't very good medical facilities there. So if there was something that did occur, we would be better to be in a city that has major medical facilities.
Yeah.
But we don't have any health conditions, knock on wood, that would be any concern for us. But I think that's especially a big value for people who are full-timers and who were, or even part-timers especially, but full-timers who want to be having their home base where their medical
where you have
doctors,
your doctor,
the
and
regular
you've got
doctors,
facilities, and
wasn't
definitely.
concerned for us.
A lot of RVers are in at-risk categories, whether it's age or health conditions, and so a lot of people are vulnerable right now.
Yeah, I was looking for a picture on your Friday night activities.
Oh, Friday.
I couldn't find it quickly enough tonight because it was a busy day. But why don't you explain what you do in the middle of the desert when you're all by yourself with just your spouse on a Friday night?
You got to keep things a bit interesting, Bob. So, because every day feels like the same. Every day it was Groundhog Day, and so we were watching Jimmy Kimmel Live, and his wife came up with a thing to do Formal Friday for them to get dressed up, and was encouraging other people to do it. So we did it. Mark got dressed up in a tux. Believe it or not, he has a tux on board the RV. I'm a long black dress.
Yeah. You have a tux or a T-shirt?
Oh no, it was a real tux. Full tux.
No, it was a real tux.
Oh yeah. He only bought it in January for a friend's 40th birthday party. It was a black tie event, so it came in handy.
Not every RVer carries a suit and a tux and all that gear, and especially fun to go do that in the middle of the desert, no one else around, took a photo. And,
so every Friday we do it now. It's a thing. Every Friday we get dressed up and we take photos and we share it on social media.
Yeah, and the community seems to really like it.
Yeah, people think it's fun. It's a good excuse to put on pants,
Hey, you got to do it. Now, you said every day seems like the same. Yeah. Is that normally the case or just because of this COVID issue?
Especially because of the COVID issue, because people can't go out, you can't go and do things. We haven't been out to a restaurant since, like everyone else, probably early March.
Yeah.
People are saving a considerable amount of money.
That's the good news is that we've had some impact to revenue, but we've also been able to lower our expenses. And that's one of the things we love about the full-time RV life is that we have more variable expenses. But we are encouraged. I know you mentioned that some of those closures, but we're actually really encouraged about what this is going to mean for RVing going future, because so many people are going to not going to be doing on cruises and air travel and other types of travel in the future. And so I think all in all, the RV industry is going to benefit from this. Maybe not short term, but longer term.
Yeah,
I think even in the short term, it's going to explode. And you're right; they're going to think twice about cruises and airplanes, and every indicator, all the economists, all the analysts, everybody.
Tell that Greenberg story.
That's what's going to happen.
Tell that Greenberg story.
What's that?
Tell the Greenberg story. Yeah. The Peter Greenberg.
I passed around that interview with Peter Greenberg, and unsolicited, he was talking about the decline of the challenges of cruise ships and airplanes. And in the middle of the interview, he just took off on RVs and how great they were going to be. They're going to explode, and it's the only way to go. And where else would you spend your money if you wanted to be with your family and the like? So you've got national figures talking about that. I was telling the story Wednesday night. I've got a dealer up here that sold 13 RVs last week for $750,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, even having an RV parked in your driveway, if you've got some, just to be able to self-quarantine if somebody's sick or is having symptoms or is having to go to work and being exposed, even if you're not taking it somewhere, just having that as an extra space is super beneficial.
Or a workspace to get away from the kids in the house.
Yeah, have a workspace. There's benefits beyond just travel. And we've been getting contacted by a lot of big mainstream media and doing a lot of interviews as well. So there's a lot of conversation about it. Like you said, Greenberg and NBC and Washington Post. Yeah,
the national media has been all over RVDA and RVIA and the bloggers and the people that are out there. So that's a good sign. So hopefully we'll start to see that dissipate and get the campgrounds open, get the businesses open. And Gail Hogan says the RV industry has increased for the past 7 years. Well, you're right, Gail. You probably take a little dip here for 2 or 3 months nationally.
Yeah,
so I think numbers will be down. Yeah. Numbers have been down the last 2 years in terms, but overall exposure for the industry and people jumping in, it's going to be really good. So we are right up against the half hour. John, got any more questions before we let them go?
No, you know what? They're the nicest people. We always meet the nicest people in the RV world. I said that the other day. You got to meet you get to meet them from around the corner, around the block, and around the country, and really around the world. And I'm sure that they will verify that statement with the people that they've met in their times on the road. And we just want to wish them good health, good happiness, and let's get this thing behind us so that we can get them up to New England to let them eat a real lobster.
The real lobster. Yeah.
Get the real stuff.
Thanks for having us, guys. We always love hanging out with you guys. You guys are really
always fun. We will have you back again. We have to, because we have to hear the Airstream story. Is Amy Foy a member of your fan club? She says they are the nicest people. So
Amy Foy makes the best ginger cookies.
Well, but she could be talking about John and Bob, you know.
What's that?
Right.
She could be talking about John and Bob.
I think she probably was, but
I don't know Amy Foy, so I'm gonna.
What does she make? Cookies?
Ginger cookies. She's an amazing cook, amazing baker. Oh yeah, she's.
Where is she located?
She's a full-time RVer now, so you got to find her. But she comes to our meetups and brings us a big Ziploc bag of these.
Okay, well, you tell her to send us a bag.
Okay, there you go, Amy.
Right. Give our address.
Look at so we're not above begging for food. We got clothing earlier in the week from our friends at Winnebago, and we'll get food through. We'll give you full credit for the food.
Yeah.
And
you got to send me your new because you're going to be physically located there for a while. Send me the address. Because we just got some new RVing in New England mugs. We had NERVDA mugs, but I now have RVing in New England mugs. And so I'll send a couple out there. Just send me your email address.
Send us your.
They're so new that I don't even have one yet.
Wow. That's right. He hasn't even seen them yet.
Send us your address and we'll send you some stickers and bookmarks. We got some.
We will.
Well, they actually came 2 days ago, and the UPS driver left them at my neighbor's house and didn't tell me. So we found that. And then when I went out to get them, I was coming back, and I looked over on the side. There's a separate parking area in our area for guests, and I see 3 packages on the ground. And it's 3 Amazon packages. The driver must have been so lazy or tired, he just threw them thinking that they were going to go in the woods. So being the nice guy that I am, I took them in. I looked at them. They were neighbors. I went out and delivered them personally to the neighbors. And one was a nuclear, doing some tests, actually some big testing for Health and Human Services. And I delivered that one. I got a nice note back from the president this morning. So I did my good deeds for the week.
Oh,
wow, good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you'll have to have some of Amy's gingerbread cookies next time you put the tux and the dress on. They go really good in the middle of Colorado with snow on the ground. We'll see if you do it, but your weather is good.
You're doing good.
Oh, listen, look at it, Gail Hogan. Can we get 2 mugs? See the danger of saying that. There'll be 22 requests for RVing in New England mugs. Yes, Gail.
They're only $10 each. They're only $10.
No, I will send them to our I can't say our good Sam friends, our former good Sam friends.
President. Well, they're still our friends.
Yeah, send me your address, Gail, and I'll send 2 out to you. It'll probably take me next week to do it. All right, look at you guys are always fun, and you're always welcome.
Well, thank you. We love catching up with you both. It's always fun. And everyone,
thank you
everyone that joined on and commented and asked questions. We appreciate you all being here.
Okay, we'll catch up to you later on. Thank you.
And while Bob is, thanks guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Well, Bob,
everyone.
Well, Bob is pushing buttons and queuing up our next guests. I will tell you that we want to thank you so much for being part of our live audience. And the only reason we can reach several thousand people each week is because of our friends like you that share this with their friends. And just hit that share button. It's down the bottom of your screen somewhere. And we're more than happy to bring on some new people to enjoy the RV lifestyle. And with that being said, I'm looking for my cue to introduce these people. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know,
but I'm sending a smart remark to Kessler because he puts up. He says, "I don't want any mugs."
Okay, he wasn't going to get them anyway. But we should also let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that for the last 8 shows of when we've tried to play a recorded segment that we've done before, we have come out 0 for 8. So let's just see how Mr. Zagami does.
Well, I thought, no, tell us a little bit about your interview. We got plenty of time. It's only a 10-minute video.
Okay.
And
and they may
before you
they may join us live, but not too long ago, because we're sequestered in our own homes, I have been virtually living on the computer from 7 in the morning to 9 or 10 at night, and looking at RV videos from all over the world. And one of the couples that I bumped into was that couple that you see right there, and that is Ben and Rebecca from Outliers, right? Outliers, Outlander.
Outliers, Outlanders. Yeah.
Yes, something like that. And basically it means who are people from the edge that are around the edge. They're on the fringe. So I contacted them earlier in the week, and we did a couple great interviews, which if they're not available here tonight, will be available on our YouTube channel. And you have a chance to deal with them that way. But basically, they had a 4,300-mile run home from Mexico through the U.S., through Canada, up to Seward, Alaska, where they, even though they're full-timers, they full-time for 9 months of the year and have a bed and breakfast in Alaska that they go back to when it's not rented out. So with that being said, they had to travel from 100-degree weather through snow, through mountains, and with 2 motorhomes. They met Rebecca's mother, who's a full-timer, a single full-timer in Arizona, and shared driving duties with her and them, and made it through. So with that being said, I think we're ready to press that button. And
we should explain, in case some people don't know, the Outlanders are RVers, but they're Outlanders. I mean, this is really extreme RVing, and that motorhome behind them is a Fuso, F-U-S-O, and these are 4-wheel drive, heavy-duty truck chassis, and they just go out into the wilderness. And if you remember back to when we had RV Wanderlust on Eric and Brittany Highland, they had a Winnebago View, but they also had a beefed-up Jeep, and that Jeep was an Outlander type Jeep. They had a tent where they slept on the top, and they were.
These are guys that. This is a big 4-wheel drive vehicle, and in the box, the living part was custom made, and they said they're the 3rd owners of it. But these are people that go to the edges of the earth, literally to the edges of it. They climb mountains, and they drive across rivers and streams with this. They haven't driven across oceans yet, although they have been. They've put this unit through 73,000 miles and 41 countries. And the interesting thing is this, ladies and gentlemen, they have already crossed 83, that's 83 items off their bucket list. And the thing is this, so many of us sit at home and figure, well, we'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, wait till I retire, and don't even have the courage to write down items on their own bucket list.
Well, I don't know too many people who get 83 items to begin with, and if they checked off 83,
right.
how many did they have?
Yep.
Wow. But similar to that, the Eric and Brittany were supposed to go overseas this summer with their Jeep. They were going to leave the motorhome home, but they were going to take the Jeep and they were going to do
there'll be another
activities all over Europe
in our lifetime.
Yeah, and it might be good. So we're going to try a video. So I'm going to drop.
Let's say a prayer, everyone.
Let's
have a group prayer.
This is a trouble-free show. Let's get them down. Let's get me.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of RVing in New England, where we continue talking with full-time RVers and how they have had to scramble to find safety in light of this coronavirus. And now we've got a special couple that had a 4,300 run home. And say hello to Ben and Rebecca, who are joining us from Seward, Alaska. Welcome, guys.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good to be here.
So we've talked to people that had to, drive 300 or 400 miles on the East Coast to get into a state that wasn't going to be closed down. Tell us about your 4,300 three-country trip.
Well, I guess we're talking to you from our home, so we are not full-timers.
No,
but when you live
full-timers.
months upon end inside a motorhome, that is full-time living. But we were living in Baja California, Mexico, filming our documentary, enjoying life, and things with the coronavirus just started kind of getting worse. They called out for people to shelter in place. So we found a really cool campground on a farm and stayed there for 10 days and, took things in. Things started escalating still, and borders were getting tighter, restrictions, and everything was getting a little worse.
You're
So
still in Mexico now, right?
Yeah, we were still in Mexico.
Okay.
Like 500 plus miles below the border. And we figured, we have a home to go to. Let's get there because this is not going to be over in a week. We could ride it out for a week, 2, maybe 3, no problem at all. But if this is going to be a long-term deal, there's no place like home.
So you planned to get home, and you had to make a detour to, Rebecca, pick up your mom, right, who was also a full-time RVer.
That's right. She retired a couple of years ago and moved into a Class A. So she had been wintering in Arizona and was getting to the point where she couldn't find a place to stay that didn't either cost an arm and a leg or that they couldn't guarantee, safe harbor in the long term.
So you guys said, Mama, come with us, and we'll lead the way.
That's right.
Very much.
So it looks like from the video, and by the way, we'll give a link to the video on your YouTube page, is what? Outliers Overland.
That's right.
As you can see on your shirt, Ben, Outliers Overland. The videos are absolutely fascinating. And certainly because you have almost 70,000 followers, they must find that it's fascinating as well. But when I saw the video, you dealt with every kind of weather imaginable, from Mexico to snow on the U.S.-Canadian border.
Yeah, we left going kind of in sandals and not wearing your shirt, hanging out on the beach, drinking some beer, to actually it's quite warm in Alaska right now. It's probably about 40 degrees.
But we had a few nights. We had a weather storm where we hit single-digit temperatures during the night and had some precipitation that was the white fluffy kind.
But on a journey that long, you just have to kind of jump into it and look 2-3 days ahead. And there was a period where we needed to push through some snow and one night of bitterly cold weather to get to the other side, which was ironically further north, where the temperatures were more pleasant. And if we would have sat in that one place, we would have been in snow and 10-degree weather for 5 days.
Wow.
So there are calculated pushes when you're on a journey that long.
Any issues with border crossing from Mexico to U.S. or U.S. into Canada? Were there any issues there?
So Mexico to the United States was incredibly easy. We didn't even experience a secondary inspection, which we are used to doing because we travel in the camper. They usually want to have a look inside. They didn't this time. And then when we got to the U.S.-Canadian border, once they understood we were Alaskans and going home, that is deemed essential travel right now, and all they did was ask that we limit our exposure to other people as much as possible, pay at the gas pump, try only to get gas and maybe some groceries.
Pay at the pump. Don't even go into the store.
They asked if we had groceries to last the time that we would be in their country, and we of course
made it
had
all the way
stocked
home.
up, and gas was the only thing we stopped for.
So the run from the U.S.-Canadian border to the U.S.-Canadian border again, where Alaska meets with Northwest Territories or
Yukon Territory.
Yukon. How many days was that, and what is there to see during that time?
Oh,
Well, it's
beautiful.
like give or take 2,000, maybe 1,900 miles of nothingness, but in that nothingness, you can find everything that you're looking for as to why we love to travel. Even though we've done the journey 8 times in 4 years now, it is still breathtaking, but it's a lot of emptiness. The southern part of Canada is it's just very Western. You know, you see Kohl's, you see all the retail stores, but you get out of Dawson City, or Dawson Creek, you just start hitting the Alaska Highway and you get to 200-mile stretches of nothingness.
Wow.
A lot of amazing natural beauty, mountains, rivers, streams, lakes,
wildlife,
hot springs.
Were you ever afraid that something was going to happen, whether it be a breakdown or whether weather would be an issue, and you get stuck away from home? Was that ever cross your mind?
Well, I think it's something that you always deal with as a traveler.
Every single day.
Every time you turn the engine on, there's the risk of breaking down.
Anything can happen at any time.
And my mom had never done this journey in her rig in the winter-ish weather. And so she was a little nervous as to, ours is really built for winter camping.
Yeah.
And she was definitely nervous as to how hers would handle, especially when we were seeing some single-digit temperatures. But she has a Tiffin Class A, and that thing performed like a champ, which we knew it would because we owned a Tiffin before this. And
she's also owned that rig. She's done an entire loop around the country and only had one problem, and that was like an EGR issue.
Yeah.
And we've done 45,000 miles in our Fuso without a lick of problems. And in December, we traversed that same road in minus 25 Fahrenheit. So
this was easy compared to that trip.
Okay.
And we did have some trouble. We had we had to do some heater TLC and
change a filter,
and a valve stem went bad on one of mom's tires. A couple things like that. And you just
life
roll
on
with
the road.
You
go with it. Right? Not that you have a choice, right?
No, you don't.
You can't be afraid or live in the what ifs or the fears. You'll never go anywhere.
Right, exactly. What are your plans now as far as how long you're going to, I hate to use the term hunker down because everybody's been using that term, but what is your plan for staying put before you head south again?
Well, I don't think we're sure because no one really knows what's going to happen. With any luck, tourism will come back up here this summer. We have a bed and breakfast in our hometown that we typically run in the summertime. So maybe that will open up again and we can run that for the summer. Our intention, as soon as this all breaks up and we can get out of here again, is to ship overseas. That was what we were working towards this year. Was we were planning to ship to Japan with our truck and start our around the world journey. So as soon as things loosen up and we can proceed with that plan, that's the goal.
But in the immediate future, we are going to go through life and try to just make the most of things. Yeah. Whatever the situation may be. Right now, once we're done quarantining, I think we're on day 7 now, we can still go out and camp in Alaska. We can still go out and fish. We can still go out and hunt and do all of our stuff in nature. We are not restricted at all.
And there's you never want for things to do up here in nature. It's,
always
the
something.
possibilities are endless.
Great. Perfect. Hey, we're out of time for this segment, and you've got such an interesting story. I know you've been to 43 countries, and we only had a chance to deal with 3 of them today, but we'd like to ask you to come back and talk to us again because you have a fascinating story.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We'd love to come back.
Great. We've been talking with Ben and Rebecca from outliersoverland.com. A marvelous interview.
Hey, all right, John, that was a fantastic interview.
Oh, we made it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we made it. And there's part 2 of that interview is available on the New England RV Dealers Association YouTube page, where it talks about so many of the other adventures that they've had during their time. And really nice people. And that's, again, I've said it over and over again. One of the cool parts about RVing is that you get to meet a whole bunch of different kinds of people. But the underlying thing is that they're all good people. They're all willing to share. They're all willing to tell others about the mistakes that they've made so they don't do the same thing. And, you know, I don't know if they had a chance to join us yet. I did send them the link. I don't know if you see them anywhere, Bob. My screen's a little muted tonight.
Rick says nice job Rick says nice job on the interview and the tech work. Yeah, it took a while, but we think we have finally mastered it. So, but that was a great interview. We'll do more. Now we know what we're doing. We'll do more of them. And as John said earlier, we've been spending the week playing around with a lot of different platforms and software. You know, we usually start texting each other around 5 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, you know, I found this last night, or have you seen this, or download this. So we're playing around with a lot of other things to, you know, continually improve the show, and we certainly appreciate the support.
We're both allegedly retired. We're up, put it this way, we're of retirement age, and I would venture to say that, you know what, maybe our audience wants to chime in on this, but I think people are working harder and longer hours now from home than they did at the office. Because number one, if you worked in Boston or you worked in an area where you had an hour commute, all of a sudden you've got 10 extra hours a week that you're not spending wasted in traffic. So maybe our audience over on the right, I can't see them for some reason.
I'll run them through here. Yeah, you're right. And I've talked to a lot of people that had a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of conference calls, and everybody says exactly that. I mean, like I say, I'll start at 5 o'clock, and you know, it's 10 o'clock before you realize anything. You've got 5 hours worth of work done. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning, and the next thing you know, May's calling for dinner around 6 or 7. But it's fun. It's not work. I mean, this is. I mean, perfect. But you're right. The people have gotten a lot of extra time. We have Eric Tuller.
You're eating lunch at 10:30.
Huh? Yeah. Eric says, thanks for the show.
You're eating lunch at 10:30.
Hope to go for full time at the end of July. Well, we encourage you to, if that's your plan, Eric, we hope that you'll be able to do it, and I'm sure you'll be able to find some places to travel to. And Janice says, nice interview, very informative. You don't have to say something nice about your brother-in-law, Janice. That's okay. She's waiting for NASCAR to come back. All right.
Yeah.
We're a little bit early, but we can end a couple minutes early. Anything? I don't see any comments coming in about the. I know Swenson's working a lot because I see him posting stuff early, and I think most. Well, you know, how's it impacting you, Jason? Because you can't travel. Jason's job he was always on the road. So, how are you?
Well, he's not on the road now. He's a supervisor in the office. However, he said that fuel consumption, because people are not driving, is down. I mean, Jason's our friend. He works at Cumberland Farms and is in charge of all the trucks that go out to the gas stations that are Cumberland Farms gas stations. I asked him a couple weeks ago, I said, what's the scoop? He said, business is terrible from the fuel end of it. Because people don't need to fill up twice a week or 3 times a week, depending upon how long their commute was.
I cannot remember a time when I have been I've had so many days between fill-ups. Even during the gas rationing in the early 70s, I filled up more than I was filling up now. I mean, I'm going sometimes a week before I get back into it, you know?
Yep.
Kessler's saying, what's the New England update for campgrounds reopening? We're waiting until the first. Massachusetts' next update is May 4th. Maine, I believe, is the 15th. So it's still on hold, Rick. The only thing they can do is put seasonals in if they're don't have any place else to stay, like we do up in our resort in Maine. So I can't go to our resort. The people who do 6 months in Maine and 6 months in Florida, and that's their only homes, they can go to the resort. They got to quarantine for 2 weeks before they can even come out of the house. So we're still optimistic and waiting to see, and we're kind of following along with everybody else. But
And folks, one thing to keep in mind is that for RV related information, you're not really going to find that on the mainstream media because they don't really talk about RVers. So more reason to stay tuned here on this channel. If something happens and we don't do a live show, we may do a YouTube video. So please go to our New England RV Dealers Association YouTube page. Actually, subscribe to the YouTube page and then hit the little bell right next to the subscribe button. And then every time we put something new out, you'll be the first one notified because we're all on the edge of our seat as to when we can get the RV out. Mine's still in storage, an extra month in storage. And I don't know. I mean, I've got to have some repairs done. So I'm going to have those done. And then depending upon what we're dealing with as far as capability to travel, you know, hey, New Englanders might get locked into New England if they close down New York and Connecticut. You might have to go to Vermont or up into, and you can't go to Canada. I mean, it's conceivable that
we'll be quarantined.
You could get locked into the state.
Yep, we could be locked in. Rick says same here for the most part. Michigan governor just allowed hotels, motels to open, but not campgrounds. Rick, we don't want to have a discussion on your governor in Michigan. That's she gets enough headlines without us, and if we start talking about her now, we'll be here till midnight. But I'm glad.
Oh, we can talk about that.
I'm glad she's your governor, Rick, not ours.
Yeah, I heard that the mayor of Las Vegas is a Michigan native.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. but they may have gone to the same school. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Eric says the last time he wants to go full time, but he said the last time I filled up my Jetta was the 20th of March. That's amazing. Well, all right. So Wednesday night, we will be back Wednesday night, and our guest will be Sandy Allingson, who is now the executive director of the RV Women's Alliance, and she does a lot of consulting with campgrounds. So we'll be getting an update from her on campgrounds nationwide and what she's seeing with that. She works with a lot of the campground associations. So between that and the RV Women's Alliance, we will have a great show for you on Wednesday night. So thanks again for joining us, giving us some of your time tonight. And I'll give you the closing comment, John.
All I want to do is say thank you for joining us, and we'll see you Wednesday night. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye now.